Please welcome to the stage, Kendra Mack.
Hello. So glad to be here with you all today. So we are going to talk a little bit about courageous commitment. So what is that? Courageous commitment is the decision to be dedicated to something in spite of fear or challenges. There are a lot of people right now struggling with some things. Let me ask you, have you ever at any point in your life felt like, man, I should be further along? Some of us, yeah. There are a lot of people right now struggling with that feeling, but a lot of them aren't even sure what further along means to them. All they know is that they're frustrated where they are, they feel stuck, and they feel behind, and they felt this way for a very long time. I know. I think back to when I was in high school. I was in the passenger seat of my mom's car, bawling. I mean, ugly crying, okay? And my mom was frantically trying to figure out what was going on. And I cried out, I don't know who I am. And she was so confused. She was like, what are you talking about? You're Kendra. And I was like, yeah, I know what you call me. I know my name. But who am I? What do I like? What am I here to do? What's my purpose? How am I supposed to decide the direction of the rest of my life? And I don't even know who I am. It wasn't until years later that I thought back on that moment and I really zoomed in on my mom's face. And her level of confusion made me realize that her generation didn't have the privilege of self-discovery. They were handed a very specific blueprint. Go to school, graduate from college, get a job, get married, buy a house, have 2.5 kids, work at that job until you retire. And they couldn't teach what they didn't know. So a lot of us inherited hustle and not purpose. And now we have a generation and a workforce filled with people who have swung to the opposite extreme, where we have more information, resources, and opportunities, but we are more lost than ever. We are drowning in possibilities and desperate for direction. I know because that was me. That girl who didn't know herself, she picked a major, graduated college, and entered the workforce and turned into your stereotypical job-hopping millennial. But it wasn't because I was entitled or lazy. I was lost. I was searching for something. I didn't know quite what it was, but at the very least, I was searching for a job that could keep me motivated. But I didn't even understand motivation. How people talked about motivation, it seemed like this mystical, magical, slippery thing that you can't seem to hold on to. All the while, the definition of motivation is a reason for acting or behaving a certain way. So literally, just a reason for doing something. So I have a challenge for you. The next time you think or say, I'm just not motivated, I want you to swap that with, I don't have a reason. I'm not motivated to go to the gym. I don't have a reason to go to the gym. That doesn't feel the same, does it? I'm not motivated to start that business. I don't have a reason to start that business. Or the one that I hear on a daily basis, Kendra, I'm just not motivated at this job. And basically what they're saying is, I don't know my reason for being here. Over the last few years, I've had the privilege of training thousands of people and leaders on how to activate courageous commitment. And from their experiences and my own journey, I've learned 5 major lessons, and I just have time to touch on 2 of those today. So the first lesson is, if you don't set the direction of your life, somebody else will do it for you. I think back to when I hired my first coach. I had been job hopping for many years, and I had given up. I was like, you know what, I've done enough research, I've had enough jobs. I think it's safe to say I won't find fulfillment in my 9-to-5. I had just given up. So I was trying to find fulfillment somewhere else. It had been on my heart to talk to women about confidence. And I thought about, how could I have the biggest impact? How could I impact the most people? And I've always liked presenting. So I was like, maybe I could be a speaker. So I got a coach who assured me that she could help me with that goal. So I paid her a little bit more money than I had at the time to help me with this. And after I got in her program, the first call that we had, do you want to know what she said to me? I reiterated my goal that I wanted to become a speaker. And she said, no, you don't want to be a speaker. There are plenty of broke speakers out there. You want to be a coach. That's where the money is, and that's what I'm going to teach you to do. I was so deflated in that moment, and not just because she wasn't going to give me a refund, but because but because I believed her. And I don't know if you've ever experienced that, where you've accepted someone else's version of your potential because it felt safer or you were too scared not to, but that was me. So flash forward, months later, I had done everything she said, and I had actually started booking some clients, but I found myself in the same place I was in with my day job, frustrated and burnt out. There I was on the floor of my mom's third bedroom that I was using as a makeshift office, crying out, more tears, crying out to the Lord, like, why is this so hard? There was so much resistance and it wasn't aligned and it was so draining and I couldn't figure out why it felt that way. And this was the first time on that floor that I heard God's voice so clearly. Now, I'm a person of faith, so for me, it was God's voice. And he said it so clearly, he dropped it into my spirit. This isn't what I told you to do. I was so mad at myself because I had paid this woman to take me off my path. And that's what happens when you're not clear on your direction. You're vulnerable to other people's projections, opinions, and their own limitations. That's why I'm so passionate about helping people find the kind of clarity that unlocks courageous commitment. Because again, if you don't set the direction of your life, somebody else will do it for you for their own gain. So how do you do it? How do you unlock your courageous commitment? That brings me to lesson number 2. Meaning isn't something that's found out there someday. It's something that you create right where you are. The framework that I walk people through is my STEP framework. It's an acronym. You know, we love a good acronym. Start with your vision, train your beliefs, engineer your goals, play your role. A framework designed to help you find meaning where you are. Because whenever I talk to people about their job, what they want to do, inevitably purpose comes up. And a lot of people have this misconception about purpose that it has to be this big, sparkly thing, like their purpose has to be to cure a disease or solve world hunger. But whether they know what their purpose is or not, they usually always feel just too far away from it. Kendra, my purpose, that's something big and out there. I'm trying to figure out what I'm dealing with today. And so I found that a more accessible starting place is helping them find meaning where they are. You see, meaning is the connection of your long-term vision for your life and what you're doing today. Your vision, your purpose can help you clarify and define your vision, but meaning is how you connect it to your day-to-day. So many people feel stuck and behind, and it's not always because they lack purpose, but they don't know how to find meaning in the present moment. And how you do that is by looking at where you are through the lens of where you're going. So you're able to see the gap. And then you're able to identify what's the advantage where I am that's helping me close that gap. Is it skills, experience, exposure? Because that's where you find your meaning. And that will be your reason to keep going. So many people think that they need a new job, a new company, or a new 5-year plan to be fulfilled. But what they really need is a way to connect what they're doing today to the life that they want to build. I've talked to so many people who say they filled out 50, 100, sometimes more than 200 applications before they got the job they have now. Can you imagine filling out 200 job applications? And then having to answer the question, so why do you want to work here? Because I want to eat? I don't know. What? And then we wonder why people aren't engaged, why they're not motivated, why they're quiet quitting, or why our top performers are just quitting. It's because this wasn't their first, 50th, or 100th choice, and they don't know their reason for being here. But when you're able to empower them with a way to find meaning where they are, it unlocks their ownership. It gives them their ownership back and helps them step back into their power of choice. And this makes them engage more. This makes them show up. It makes them stay longer because they can see a reason to be committed to where they are. That's what it did for me. After job hopping aimlessly for 15 years, I got the clarity that I needed. I did a complete career pivot, started over, entry level in a new industry, learning and development. And I went from that entry level role all the way to a vice president in less than 5 years. I was able to do that because I had a way to unlock meaning at every step. And even though my vision wasn't in corporate, I was able to tie my purpose to where I was. I was able to see the meaning, and that helped me to engage, show up, execute, and be fully committed where I was even longer. Because I learned that every level of your life will require a new level of commitment. not just motivation, but commitment. When I think back to that young Kendra crying in her mom's car because she felt like she was behind before she had even started, if I could tell her one thing, it would be this: you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to know your purpose right now. Just understand that every step that you take in this life will shape who you are, and your ability to find meaning in those steps makes this journey so special. Let me ask you, what would it take for you to be courageously committed today? And you might be thinking, Kendra, I'm there. I'm committed. I'm locked in, because I know this is a room of high capacity leaders. But what about your team members? What about your kids or your siblings? Is there someone in your life right now struggling with direction, with motivation? What would it mean for you to help them find meaning where they are? Let them know that whatever their next chapter is, whether it's a career pivot, a new business, or that dream that they buried, that it's waiting on their courageous commitment, and not someday, but that starts right where they're standing. Listen, people don't need more fluffy motivation or hype to pump them up. They need a reason worth committing to. Thank you.
First of all, Kendra, you tell really a good story. You're a very good storyteller. I don't know if you practiced it a lot, but you have just a warmth and a personal touch with your stories that is just very conversational and so very relatable. One of the things I was impressed with your teaching was some of your statements. I mean, you said things like drowning in possibilities and desperate for direction. Great phrase. Don't accept someone else's version of your potential. Every level of your life will require a new commitment. And you have thought through really well phraseology, words that kind of have the ability to connect and stick with people. And I think that's a terrific quality, not only in a person, but also in a speaker. So I love the fact that you laid out these phrases to us that just made me want to write them down, because they were said in such a wonderful way. I think it's also very obvious that you have a real heart to help people find their way. But you are very realistic in your courageous commitment statement, in the fact that you can find your way, but you have to really make and pay a price to find that way. You have to make a commitment to go there. So I think that as I listen to you speak, you're not a very good speaker, but I think you have good communication skills in the workplace. I think you would be an incredible coach. I think you would be an incredible person to walk along somebody and say, here's the direction you want to have. So I enjoyed it very much. Very pleasant, very personable. Let's give Kendra a wonderful hand. Thank you very much. Yeah, good.